Hello, BookTube. I'm sure you've all heard the Boromir line from Peter Jackson's Fellowship of the Ring. One does not simply walk into Mordor. and in response to that, the serried ranks of BookTube assembled says, sure, walk in, and also take selfies. And that's what we're doing for the rest of time, for the next few weeks. We're doing a library tour on this channel, and for some reason, I decided to just go in a clockwise motion around this room. Started with the top shelf of biographies, or the bottom shelf, I don't remember, it's been a year. And we've been slowly working our way around the perimeter of the room. And now we're in the darkest depths of Mordor. Those of you who are new to the channel, there is a built-in hutch in one of the walls of this room that has shelves on it and lots of space. And being a book person, I have, of course, filled that space with books over the years. And the books have changed. If you look at my older videos, it used to be that I had the little couch on the opposite side of this room, on the eastern side of the room, because my girls liked it that way, and my old dogs liked it that way. And I would film my videos flanked by both girls, and you could easily see Mordor in the background of all those videos, and you can see, over time, the books changing. And sometimes they've been in relatively good order. For me, relatively good order constitutes being able to see at a glance what you have. No need to dig. No double stacking, in other words. That, for me, is good order. And sometimes they've been in horrible disarray, where there are huge stacks of things that I don't even recognize, haven't touched in forever. And we're at that space now on this library tour. We have finally reached it. So we're going to do a library tour of Mordor, and I don't know how it's going to go. The last time I did a Mordor tour, I weakened one of the shelves in here so bad that it actually cracked down the middle. And of course, because I make 10 videos a day, that explosion of noise and the collapse of, thousands of books onto the floor was caught on camera. I don't remember which video it was. I can't possibly think to find it and link to it. But I remember that my first response when that happened on camera was to check to make sure that the dogs were okay. And once I saw that the dogs were okay, that was the entire list of my priorities. And once that was done, I just went back to talking about whatever I was talking about. Figured, as long as the dogs aren't hurt, then the mess can wait. I got comments on that in the comments field. I remember saying, oh, wow, talk about on focus. But, okay, so glancing at the depths of Mordor now for this library tour, I see that it is in relatively controlled condition. It's not as bad as it has been, but it's pretty bad. And I also noticed that my mass market paperbacks, I used to have only mass market paperbacks and a handful of hardcovers and trade paperbacks. I used to love mass market paperbacks as just about the perfect technological delivery system for a book. Cheap. At least they used to be cheap to make, certainly, and surprisingly durable, and all that good stuff. I used to love. I used to haunt the metal spiral spinner racks and the used bookstores for mass market paperbacks. I used to haunt them for it. That attitude has largely changed in recent years, probably in the last 15 years. I find the reading experience of a trade paperback or even a hardcover to be more comfortable than a mass market. And also, I mentioned that before. I mentioned that sometimes on wine-soaked evenings with bookish friends, and they point out, well, another factor that may have nudged you toward trade paperbacks and hardcovers is that you get them for free. So maybe that had an effect. One way or another, I used to have bookcases full of mass market paperbacks, and I don't anymore. I have, generously speaking now, if it were a nice-sized bookcase and I double-stacked, I have one bookcase full of mass markets. If you don't count my Regency romances, because thanks to a certain trip to Vermont just recently, the number of my Regency romances has doubled. Although the rest of you should still be looking for them. Signet Regency romances. When you see them in your bookstore, you don't have to buy them yet. Take pictures and send the pictures to me so I know what you're looking at. But I noticed looking at Mordor now that my mass markets have migrated to the very top shelf of Mordor. So as far out of the way as possible, unless I go the next step, which is to put them in boxes. Books in boxes. and just pack them away under the understanding that someday I might want to look at them, but I don't want them taking up shelf space now. I don't know how that's going to go. But in the meantime, that's what we're going to be doing first. I'm going to go from top to bottom in Mordor. So everything is double or triple stacked here for the top shelf. So this could take some time. But we're going to try and go through it in blocks. I noticed that that's going to be fairly easy because quite a few of these things are books in series. They are these. They are these old Ballantine black-spined Tarzan novels. These things are fantastic. They are just fantastic. They may very well be my favorite edition of Edgar Rice Burroughs' Tarzan series. You've got Tarzan of the Apes, first one, classic cover. But the artwork on the cover varied from Neil Adams, the great comic book artist Neil Adams, who did this first cover. It varied back and forth. He did some of them at the beginning, and then they mostly went to, I think, was it Rowena? No, Boris Vallejo did most of them. But at the beginning, it's Neil Adams for a few, and he continues to come on and off. So you have Tarzan of the Apes. Look at that. Fantastic. These are not in order, so maybe Sue's Book Nook should leave the room just temporarily. These are not in order. We have Tarzan's Quest, a fairly static cover, about which I am not complaining. This is the son of Tarzan, fairly confusing. The figure with the headband could easily be Tarzan. I love this book, but oddly enough, it's the previous cover art for the Tarzan run of Son of Tarzan that I like better. We've seen it on this channel where he's unaccountably blonde. Korak, the killer, is unaccountably blonde, but still, it's a less confusing cover. This looks like a Tarzan cover. You look at it and you think, where's the Son of Tarzan? Because that's not a boy. That's a full-grown man on the cover. But I'm not going to fault Neil Adams at this late date. Then we have Tarzan the Invincible. Look at that. You notice from these covers some of the problematic nature, if you're going to use the revolting 21st century term, of a lot of Tarzan novels, is that you've got, not only do you have black native tribes of Africa being described in ways that sometimes feel a little colonial, but you also got tons of Arabs. Arabs appear all through the Tarzan novels, always as villains. And that, well, actually, ancient Romans appear too. This is Tarzan and the Lost Empire, where he finds a city of ancient Rome in Africa. Tarzan and the City of Gold, look at that. There's Tarzan and La, the priestess La. Let's see here, Tarzan and the Lion Man. Tarzan meets a double of himself and also an ape who claims to be God. Oh, all right, okay. I think these are thanks to my partner in crime when it comes to pulp fiction like this, Mark at Riches and Reads. I'm pretty sure that he sent me these. Could be one of the rest of you, but I think it was probably Mark. These are Carson of Venus, Edgar Rice Burroughs' Carson of Venus, which I don't think that Burroughs Corporation authorizes paperbacks of Carson of Venus right now in bookstores. I don't think you can get one in bookstores. I think, if I remember correctly, they are authorizing a Carson of Venus comic book, or maybe it's that Carson of Venus has started to go into public domain, and so they a comic book company can do it anyway, whether they're authorized to or not. But this is Carson of Venus, and that is not Neil Adams, and that is not Boris Vallejo. That is the great Frank Frazetta. Look at that, with the sea monster being modeled on a lizard that he had right there in his own tank. We have Lost on Venus. That obviously is not Frank Frazetta, but that's okay. And then we go back to Frank Frazetta. There's No Escape on Venus. And there is, that is not Carson of Venus on the cover. That's someone else. Once upon a time, fantasy covers trafficked in this sort of thing, and the world did not come to an end. Then we have The Wizard of Venus and Pirate Blood. Again, not a Frank Frazetta cover. And then we move back to Tarzan. This is Tarzan and the Ant-Men. And Tarzan the Terrible, of course. Tarzan meets a dinosaur. Then what have we got? Okay, we're moving away from Tarzan just briefly because these are two Michael Moorcock novels. These great old Daw yellow spine mass market paperbacks of Elric of Melniboné. This is the Bane of the Black Sword and Stormbringer, and this is This is Michael Whelan artwork, yes? Yes, yeah, this is Michael Whelan artwork on these covers. Only two. I don't think I have any others. I want the whole of them in these. The Elric stories are probably the thing Moorcock will be remembered for, although he probably would hate that. But these are the stories of a sorceress albino with a magic sword, and they are terrific. They're absolutely terrific. And I think I only have these two, Stormbringer and the Bane of the Black Sword. There was a whole series of these that were done in these DAW mass market. This one you can tell that it's been in the sun, because they all had this color, this signature bright yellow color. I don't think I have any others. Okay, we go back to Frank Frazetta. This is Edgar Rice Burroughs' The Moon Men, an adventure novel. You can't go wrong with Edgar Rice Burroughs, except you can't go much right. You have to be right in the right mind frame for him. Okay, then we go back to... All right, so this first video of Mordor is going to be mostly Edgar Rice Burroughs. This is Tarzan the Magnificent. Look at that. Boris Vallejo, if you don't give him action to do, he can do a very good job. This is Tarzan and the Madman. Tarzan takes on one of the most dangerous animals. It's not a gorilla or a lion or whatnot, but it's you're walking down a path in a forest in Africa, and you see one of those things, fully grown male Cape buffalo. You don't want that to happen. You really don't. Then Tarzan and the Jewels of Opar. This is the introduction of La, the high priestess La, who is herself chaste and beautiful, even though she is surrounded by beast men who have devolved from the sinking of Atlantis. And La is an interesting narrative counterpoint to Tarzan himself, and one of the only ones anywhere in a Tarzan novel. We think Tarzan and Jane. But Jane is never... Burroughs never gives her much of a personality. She is just Jane to Tarzan. La, he does give a personality to her. And a number of Tarzan fans have always wished it was Tarzan and La. Then we have Tarzan and the Leopard Men. Look at that. Look at that for action on the cover, huh? You know that's not Boris Vallejo. Then we have Tarzan the Untamed, where he is being threatened by a vulture. And Tarzan, Lord of the Jungle, where I think what's going on there is he is saving a Mangani from a giant snake. Okay, all right, we're continuing with Edgar Rice Burroughs. We're doing the whole of Edgar Rice Burroughs. Not the whole of it, but the whole of his major series. We did Carson of Venus, we did Tarzan, what's left, but my own favorite, John Carter of Mars. And here we have four of those. In these great old Del Rey paperbacks that had this big masthead, and then the artwork, and again the artist changes. You have the art is all wraparound, and so there you have John Carter and Tars Tarkas, and there is just the back of the cover. So what we have here is Gods of Mars, which is the second John Carter novel. Then Chessmen of Mars, which is an adventure story, doesn't really involve John Carter much. Then Warlord of Mars, which is the third volume, and which concludes what I always think thematically is the opening trilogy of John Carter of Mars. If you read A Princess of Mars, Gods of Mars, and Warlord of Mars together, you will feel like you've read one epic. What was the other one? Oh, no, I'm sorry. There isn't another one. There's just doubles of Chessmen of Mars with two different colors on the lettering. And that is it. I don't know why I don't have more John Carter. I must, somewhere. I know I have all the John Carters in this old Del Rey set. I know that I do. I love it too much. Okay, then we have more Tarzan. This is a much beaten up copy. This is the one that I probably read and carried with me in a lot of different places of Tarzan of the Apes. The first one. And then we have Tarzan in the Forbidden City, where he is fighting some sort of giant eel. Tarzan in the Forbidden City could really be the title of, probably 20 Tarzan novels. All he does is find Forbidden Cities. And then the last book for today is not Tarzan. And it is not John Carter, and it is not Carson of Venus. It is Queen Victoria. I don't know what it's doing with all the rest of these, but this is the Viking Portable Victorian Reader. This is edited by Gordon Haight, and it's part of the old Viking Portable series that you see. You see that on the spine. For a long time, Viking had a lot of success with these things, a lot of commercial, a lot of critical success with these things. They would get an editor to pull together a representative smattering of stuff along a certain heading. The Viking Portable Emerson, the Viking Portable Thoreau, John Bailey's famous The Viking Portable Tolstoy, which is a reading experience all of its own. And also things like this, where you have the Viking Portable Greek reader, Roman reader, Renaissance reader, medieval reader, and Victorian reader. And I think they're fantastic. I really do. I think they're fantastic. I think that if Viking had the money, the time, and the editorial supervision, what they ought to do is just reissue these things. Reissue them either as very pretty mass market paperbacks, if they still have a press that makes mass market paperbacks, or reissue them as high quality trade paperbacks. Some of them were reissued as trade paperbacks once upon a time, but they were not high quality. They were really, really shoddily made, and they weren't pretty. They didn't have anything like the cover design that these things do, and I think that's a shame. These are great anthologies. They really deserve to be alive, to have a life of their own. I would snatch them all up now if I saw them. I used to have them all, and even Viking Portables for people I don't particularly like, I still had them because I enjoyed the editorial experience of going through them, but I have hardly any of them anymore. So I would snatch them up whenever I saw them, but you don't see them much anymore. And that is it. That is our first foray into Mordor, and it was mostly Edgar Rice Burroughs. So that's not bad. Mostly Edgar Rice Burroughs, a little Michael Moorcock, and some of Queen Victoria. But it's not going to stay thematically consistent like that. It's going to jump all over creation. And we're just going to keep going and hope that this top shelf doesn't crack and spill tons of books onto your host. But that'll be for later. For right now, we're going to wrap this up. That is Mordor installment number 1. And for those of you who've been asking about this library tour, I guess I'm going to make this library tour complete. The only thing I won't include is my work shelf of current and upcoming books. And we've already skipped that to come to Mordor. So I guess I'll just make this complete. So we will continue the circuit of this room and then do the other rooms. So those of you who've been pining for the Penguin Classic Wall, you will get it on this tour. We will do that. We will do them all and hope that we can finish before the end of the year. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.